Right, the Ralf Rangick era has begun at Old Trafford, starting with the 1-0 win over Crystal Palace. Today we're going to look at his 4-2-2, how I've implemented it into Football Manager. There's also a tactic download link down below. Let's get into what I think is going to be a fantastic tactic for you to use in your FM22 saves. All right, so here we are. It's the 4-2-2. Now, as a Manchester United fan, I didn't call it in terms of I didn't know what Ralf Rangick was going to do, but I was hoping he was going to play a 4-2-2 just for the basis of a striker helping Ronaldo out, also having Fernandes in a little bit of a wider position and having two sort of like aggressive central midfielders. So this is what we have got. Now, there is an incredible amount of player instructions, which we will go through. There's also a few things that we're going to take a look at as well in match. I've got 5 or 6 little highlight clips just to show you to see how it all looks. So what we're looking from this Ralf Rangick tactic, we are looking at quick vertical passes, a quick counter press. We want the fullbacks getting high with a high defensive line. And finally, probably the most important one out of the lot, I have set up some really important pressing triggers. Now, the only thing of that is you have to do it every game, but if you want it going like Ralf Rangick's, you need to get them implemented in every game in the opposition instructions, which is this little box up here. Right, so here we are. This is the kind of, I've been tweaking over the last few days. I've played pre-season in this little save, just so you can see there's the pre-season results. To be fair, the pre-season at Manchester United in this is absolutely shocking because of Euros, so I didn't really get players back until then. And then we had a drip feed basically up until the Bayer Leverkusen game. So I've altered a few things. I think a few things are really important, which we'll go through as we go, especially in terms of the match engine and asking players to do a certain job. Sometimes they don't do it. So especially this Harry Maguire role, the stopper role, there's some really key things that you need to make sure you have in the game. Right, so we're starting sweeper keeper on support for David Hay. I'm not going to put it onto attack. Even though you will see him, no doubt, coming off his line a lot more. He's not happy at his feet. He's not amazing with his feet, so I've just kept that on support. We don't want to encourage him to sort of like start thinking he's a bit of an Edison and playing passes that he's probably not capable to do on a regular and consistent basis. Okay, right, so back four. The low on the right-hand side, complete wing-back on attack. Really want him getting in these wide, high areas. He has got, and this is a regular theme across the team, so important for the press, tackle harder, mark tighter. Now, the idea is that when the ball's coming into sort of like Wilf Zaha yesterday, he was getting into these areas and he was putting pressure on, conceding a lot of fouls. You will notice there, you will get a lot of yellow cards, so being clever with your substitutions will be important. Moving across, the right-sided centre-half, or the Rafael Varane, or even the Lindelof, to be fair, we've just got tackle harder and mark tighter. Now, he's not suited to it because he likes to stand off tackles. He's not and does not dive in, but we do want him stepping in, not dropping off too much. Right, moving on to Harry Maguire. We had it on central defend, just on defend, but I want to put it on stopper. If you can just imagine that these two are your two centre-halves on the halfway line, what I was finding was that if they were playing with a central striker who was maybe 10 or 15, 10 yards, 5-10 yards maybe off the defenders, the two centre-halves would generally just allow that centre-forward to get the ball and get it under control. We don't want that. As we saw yesterday in the Crystal Palace game, any balls in and around here, it was quick, aggressive press, especially balls in the air, and also balls on the ground. Both defenders, Lindelof and Maguire, were really good at that. We've also got tackle harder, mark tighter, and then I've got mark specific position. Just to double it up and to really get it marking how you want it. If we go into the instructions, I've got him marking the one central forward. If you play with a lone striker in a 4-3-3, you want that middle man because he can be quite isolated at times, like they had with Bendeke. You want Harry Maguire right in there. So I'm hoping he will follow him into these areas and stop him being able to get the ball down and play and then help the transition from defence into attack for the other team. On the left-hand side, I've just gone to balance it up a little bit. We've gone with Luke Shaw or Telles as a complete wing-back on support. Tackle harder, mark tighter. Right, moving into midfield, I've had a little play around, and I think this kind of suits what we want as in a Ralf Rangick tactic. So we're going to ball-winning midfielder on support and a box-to-box midfielder. I've got him taking fewer risks. I've got him holding position, just because if Pogba's the one or the box-to-box midfielder's the one to go, there's also Fernandes in there. There'll also be Sancho in there as well. I don't necessarily need him to go too far. He might pick up the higher of the midfield. So if there's a 6 and an 8 in there, he's more likely maybe to pick up an 8. So I've just got that on hold position. Box-to-box midfielder, tackle harder, mark tighter. Now, the interesting thing, I think if anybody's going to struggle in this tactic, not FM terms, if you're doing a Manchester United save, Paul Pogba will do wonders in the box-to-box midfield role. He scored a hat-trick for me against Norwich City, first game of the season. But I don't think we're going to get away unless we're playing a team like Wednesday night when we're playing a young boys. We may be able to get by with a Pogba / Fred, but I can honestly see Pogba leaving now at the end of the season because we don't want him in here. He slows the pace down too much. I can't imagine Pogba getting much of a run. Let me know, United fans, let me know your thoughts. Okay, the two interesting positions now. Now, I did think of having Bruno on this left-hand side as an advanced playmaker, but what I found is, very early on, whoever plays in this role just slows the play down. They also roam from positions. He was coming into these areas here a little bit. We don't want that. We want a nice, structured tactic, so when there is a chance to from transition from attack to defence and we need to counter-press, we need to do it with our players in a nice, structured formation. So we've put him on an inverted winger, more direct passes, and to give it a bit of a Bruno feel, we've got cross more and shoot more, because he does love, when he gets in these little wide areas, even when he was playing under Ollie, getting in these wide areas and then bending balls to the back stick and also then cutting in on his right foot. So we've got that. And more importantly as well, we've got sit narrower. Obviously, we've got it as a 4-2-2-2-2. Now, if you go with this sort of box formation, they do get too narrow. You kind of want him to start in these more half spaces and start wide and then cut in, which then allows obviously the wing backs to get in. And then obviously, very important, these two players, the 2 10s or whatever you want to call them, the two wider players, tackle hard and mark tighter. They are so important in the press. Sancho on the right-hand side. I've just put him as an inside forward. I just wanted to give it a little bit of variation. I think if there's one player who's going to get into these areas, I have already seen, I think I've got a little tactic clip of him breaking. You won't see Fernandes doing it on support. He will drift into these areas, but we want Fernandes to really get in. When the ball's on the other side of the pitch, we want Sancho getting in here, whereas if it was on this side of the pitch, the right-hand side, and imagine Fernandes just to sort of like hold his run a little bit. You may see him on the edge of the area a little bit, maybe even getting in at the back stick every now and again, but we do want Sancho to really attack the defenders and cause problems. Moving on to the strikers, we're going with Cavani as a pressing forward. I think this was obviously Rashford at the weekend. And then Ronaldo as an advanced forward. We're playing with a 2. The main reason is because it'll help Ronaldo. It'll help Ronaldo in a press. If you've got Cavani and Rashford up there, that will no doubt help. It will also help us force play to the fullbacks. When the goalkeeper's got it, we want the ball to go to the fullback and then we can initiate the press. That then does mean that Fernandes and the Sancho will do more of the running rather than Cristiano. The idea is I've got for this is that the ball is played out wide. We don't press the centre-halves. We go out wide. And then what we have is, because Cavani and Ronaldo are in those areas, it makes it harder then for the fullback to stop and go back across and try and switch play using the centre-halves. So Ronaldo is kind of helping with the press, but he's not actually doing the pressing himself. And it has worked a couple of times wonderfully in the match engine, which I will show you. I don't think I've got any personal instructions. Obviously, shoot more often for Cavani. But then with Ronaldo, we are asking him to tackle harder. We do want more output from him. We don't want the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer Ronaldo. We still want him to be helping out. And we saw that in the Arsenal game during midweek as well. And then Mark Tighter, we want him kind of sitting on that centre-half and not allowing the ball to come back in from the fullbacks. Okay, that is the player instructions. Team instructions are on positive mentality. Passing to space. We're playing with 2 up. We want Ronaldo, we want Cavani to run into space. Obviously, with 2 up, when you're playing with a lone striker up there, I think it's harder to work the channels because obviously you're relying on your central forward to work in both channels. I think that will allow us to go vertically. Remember, vertical quick passes is what we want. Will allow us to do that. Fairly narrow because we're expecting these Fernandes and Sancho. We want these 2 players really coming and getting involved in the middle of the pitch in those half spaces. Passing direct standard. From what I saw, I was a little bit worried that we'd go too long ball at the weekend. We didn't, so we're just leaving that on standard. Tempo, extremely high. When we get it, remember there's the old Ralf Rangick, get the ball back after 8 seconds, and then when we've got it, can you get a shot off in 10 seconds? And obviously, with an extremely higher tempo. We're going to probably make more mistakes. There will be a high turnover in possession. Possession stats for me so far in pre-season haven't been great. I think even the Norwich City game, which I'll show you, they beat us on possession, even though we absolutely smashed them 5-0. But extremely high tempo to move that ball quickly through the thirds and hopefully get plenty of shots off. And then everything else, there is an argument. We crossed very early. Dalot, and in particular Tellers as well, on the left-hand side. We were crossing very early. I've just left that off. It's entirely up to you. You know, Man United, if you're playing with a Cavani and Ronaldo, and we know how the match engine works, crossing early into the box maybe is not a bad add-on. In transition, now, we're obviously counter-pressing. That's an absolute must, and obviously we're countering absolute must. Now, we've just got it distributing to the centre-half. What we did find is Lindelof, Maguire were both very good on the ball at the weekend. Started a lot of attacks. Obviously, David De Gea, he's not great with his kicking. It just gives us the opportunity to do that. Out of possession. Now, this is the interesting one. I think you're all maybe expecting a high defensive line, which we've got, and a high line of engagement. Now, I've pulled it off that. We have got a standard line of engagement. The main reason behind this is because I don't want my two strikers to press. He does not want Ronaldo. He does not want to have to tell Ronaldo to go and press absolutely everything. Remember all the times as well in the press when Ronaldo, not so much Ronaldo, but Bruno Fernandes would make a 40-yard pointless run to go close down the goalkeeper. I don't want that. I don't want that. I want us to keep that shape as much as possible. So we're going with a standard line. But as you can see, the standard line kind of starts at the edge of the area, potentially where their centre-halves are going to be stood. Much higher line. They were really aggressive at the weekend, really aggressive, and we've got an offside trap in there just for a little bit of overkill. But I think this tactic is definitely going to see goals for you, but you will also probably see at some point some goals conceded just because of the nature of the high defensive line in Football Manager. Use tighter marking, fullbacks in particular, when balls are played into the wide men, the attacking wide men, you want them fullbacks really in there. The midfielders in there really biting, and the trigger press more often. We want to see that press as much as possible and then get stuck in. Needs to be on. It's a personal preference of mine anyway, but it's definitely a button Ralf will be ticking for Manchester United. Okay, now that is the system, that is the tactic. If you download that and put it in the game, you will get everything. Now, one thing you will not get is opposition instructions. Do not ask your assistant manager to do it because he will not get it right. So what I want you to do for Alisson, I want you to make sure for the trigger press, it is set at never. What we don't want to see is Ronaldo and Cavani going and closing down the goalkeeper and then them playing a little triangle with the two centre-halves. One of the centre-halves would then become free and then the kind of press is broken. So we want to leave it. We're also going to say leave. Don't worry that it's Liverpool, even though that's our next game. We're also never going to trigger press the centre-halves. I don't want the ball to go to them and us immediately press. What we want is the trigger press for the fullbacks. We also want a trigger press for when it goes in to Fabinho. Now, the idea behind this is, if we go back onto the tactic, now we've set it up, the idea is that we want the player to come out to this fullback, and then soon as it does, we want the swarm. So it would be Fernandes, it would probably be Pogba coming in here. You would probably see Luke Shaw in there, and it would literally look probably something like that. Wouldn't be too dissimilar to that in terms of a swarm. Now, the idea we have the centre-halves on it, is that we don't have the centre-halves on it, just so we can save a little bit of energy. I think if we had everything, if we go back into the opposite instructions, if we had everything ticked, I think the press would get broken, especially in the latter half of games. You imagine if you had press more off, trigger press, trigger press, trigger press, trigger press, trigger press, trigger press. That would literally mean every time they get the ball, there's a trigger, a press that needs to be made. That is a lot of energy that needs to be put into a game. And obviously with the way the Football Manager is now working with 22, in terms of not being able to press 110% all over the pitch, you don't want your players getting tired. Now, the lucky thing, I think, long-term, if you're doing a Manchester United save, your squad is amazing. So game to game, you can rotate players, and that's what I think I'm going to be doing a Man United Let's Play on the channel very, very soon, because I've absolutely loved putting this together. Squad rotation is obviously going to be important, but in-game, it just gives us a little bit of a breather. Also, as well, if that's always press, you're asking Ronaldo to do it. You're asking Greenwood to do it. Cavani, yes. Rashford, yes. But I think it just gives us a little bit of a breather, slows the play down a little bit, and then soon as we get that trigger press as it going into a fullback, then we can swarm and we can get the ball back. And I've got a fantastic clip to show you of it working. All right, that is the tactic. Go ahead, download it now. Obviously, they're playing against the back four. We actually played Norwich City in the last game with, I haven't played against a holding midfielder yet using this. What I tend to do is, if this was a 4-2-3-1 and this was Fabinho up here in a 4-2-3-1, I would generally then just go and make sure the trigger press was on these two. Whoever these two were, I imagine if it was Thiago and Henderson, they would be dropping deeper. So if there is no CDM, make sure you've got your trigger press on the two central midfielders. I think if it was a back three, you would leave the middle defender off, who would normally play as a little bit of a cover player. I would definitely put the trigger press on the two wider centre backs. That'll probably mean Ronaldo, Rashford centre forwards will have to do a little bit more. But remember, you've got your number 10s, your Sanchos, your Fernandes, them wide players coming in a little bit. So hopefully they would help initiate that press with the wide centre backs. Right, we're going to show you a few clips. I've not simulated any of this. I'm not going to simulate a season for the sake of it. I think the tactic is as realistic as it possibly can be. So me doing a simulation, just to show you it's overpowered or anything like that, I don't think that's needed. If you're wanting to plug in a Ralf Rangick's tactic, then I think this one, and maybe RDF's, is for you. All right, so let's go and look at a few little highlights. Okay, right, here we are. Goal kick. Now, obviously, we're playing against Bayern Munich in this preseason friendly, so they're going to, with Julian Nagelsmann, they're going to play out from the back, aren't they? So it's kind of set up perfectly. So remember, we've got the trigger presses on the two fullbacks who have gone very wide. We've got Ronaldo and who's that in there? That'll be Cavani. And then obviously we've got a holding midfielder in Goretzka there. I think they were playing a 4-2-3-1 with, who's that in there? With Sabitzer. We've got them on as a trigger press as well. So then basically watch how the press is triggered. So the ball goes into the centre halves. As you can see, Ronaldo, the two strikers, not pressing. Very important. This also helps with the high defensive line, taken off just the standard line. Remember, that standard line was going across the edge of the area. Upamecano then plays. He starts to move out to the centre half. There's a little bit of engagement from Cavani, look, kind of stopping that ball coming back. Upamecano travels with it. He's coming into a crowded area. Back to Sula. Cavani, there's not an initial press. Just watch this now. So Sula is going to play it in to Pavard. There is Lingard, who was playing as my wide left player. Watch the press. As soon as it goes in, he's off. We've won it, but we've then got the swarm. So there's Pogba in there, able to press that one. We've then got Cavani in there to stop potentially the ball going back into Sula. Lingard wins it. He plays a pass into Ronaldo. And there you go. There's a perfect example of the trigger press that I've set up with this tactic. Okay, Ronaldo's, second goal for you. He actually scored all four in this game. So what we're looking is now, obviously, we just let the play roll. The ball comes into Coman. Immediately, there's a press from Pogba, the football manager Pogba. Would he do that in real life? I'm not too sure. The ball is then intercepted. Cavani getting involved, pressing forward on attack, look. It does say that they don't drop deep, but they do. He's dropped deep. He's won the ball. Nice, simple pass, but this is what we got. Two quick vertical passes. So if we just roll it back, as you can see, you'll do it again. Cavani picks it up. Two quick vertical passes. 1, 2, we're in. That is a shot on goal within Ralf Rangick'S 10 seconds. Great way to turn the possession over. Quick vertical passes. Absolutely love it. Now, here we go. There's a good bit and a bad bit, I think. Now, you've got to be careful about who you're asking to do the presses. If you're looking at rebuilding a team and you want in pressing areas. Now, obviously, this is pre-season for us. We had a lot of players missing and we want to rotate. I've got Juan Mata now who's going to have to initiate the press. He's not the best, being old, and obviously work rate I wouldn't have a problem with, but his overall physicality, he's not going to be great in a press. What it does do, though, to be fair to him, he does get the ball. So here we go. It's gone out to Richards on this left-hand side. Mata then goes to engage now. But the best thing about this tactic is the swarm. So because we're squeezed up quite high and we have a small space in the middle of the pitch, if we had a low defensive line and a high line of engagement, we would then have too much of an area for these players to run into. But because we're very compact in the middle of the park, we're squeezing up high, and we've got a standard line. We've got so many players. So literally, he just runs into a crowd of players. And then once again, we're off. Martial, a good run. Everything is forwards. Van der Beek shooting from distance. But just a little impact, just a little clip to show you how the swarm kind of works. Right, so here we are. Another clip. We're just going to show you a little pattern of play. just with how it all works, how it looks together. So the ball has obviously come into the two centre-halves, so they're dropping off because we want them to get on the ball. Dalot is nice and wide. Fernandes starts wide, but then because of his inverted winger role, comes in on his right foot. Now we're keeping the ball, but we are playing quite quick. Now we get this. Because Lindelof is very good on the ball, we get that pass. Look how high Dalot is on that left-hand side. There is Wan-Bissaka, the other full-back. Dalot is actually playing as a left wing-back today. He's got up very, very high. Good pass from Lindelof. He has got the quality to... He's got a decent range of passing as Lindelof. Fernandes then going on the underlap. Back to Lindelof, but the tempo is still very good. Dalot again into Ronaldo. Good forward pass. Vertical passes. That one was the one, as you can see. That's what we wanted Sancho to do. Inside forward on attack. Remember, I wanted him getting in between the full-backs and the centre-halves. Pass wasn't good enough. This bit's good though as well. Varane stepping right in. Mark tighter. Be more aggressive as well. Comes in. Bosch, have some of that. And then Pogba immediately is looking, can I thread a pass through? There's Sancho. Look at Fernandes. He's definitely holding his run a little bit on support. But Sancho is aiming to get in between those two fullbacks. And then once again, to be fair, that's a good tackle by Baka. But a little clip for you there, just to show you how the patterns of play work. Okay, right, now we're going to look at a little bit of movement with the front two. We're also going to look at just the difference between, obviously, if the passing was on more direct, I think we would have turned possession and looked to pass into space a little bit quicker. But we're quite patient with it. Obviously starts again with De Gea. Lindelof, once again, very good at carrying with the ball, breaking the lines. Fernandes in a wonderful half space, which you will see him get in a lot. There's the front two. Nothing really on, so Dalot, he goes back to Dalot, then back to Lindelof. Passes on to now Fernandes. Now, this, I think, is the key. Ball into Pogba. Now, he's got brilliant range. Now, if this was a front one or a 4-3-3, I don't think we would see this pass, but because we're playing a 4-4-2, it just allows the two strikers to work channels. You know, Pogba could have quite easily put the ball in there. He could have quite easily put the ball in there. And Pogba chooses the latter and he puts it in that right-hand space. And then look at Sancho's run immediately. He's trying to get in there to act as the central forward. He wins a corner. If that was a 4-3-3, I don't think we would get, because obviously if you're 4-3-3, with your wide players, you're getting them runs from out to in, whereas the two central strikers are going from in to out, and then we can work the channel, something that Ralf Rangick loves to have in his team. Okay, so the last little one is just a little bit of a press. Now, right, here we go. So last little highlight, we're going to turn the ball over in a minute. We get the ball back. Quick passes, very quick passes. Matic is so good at that. Mengi, Bailly, into Greenwood. We've got Sancho here, but look, already the complete wing-back, the Dalot. I think we can upgrade the quality and maybe in there long term. But Mengi, Greenwood getting involved. He's not always looking to run into the channels. Look at that pass. Great pass. Van der Beek going on the underlap there, and then you've got Mengi who's going to carry on the run. It doesn't come to anything, I don't think. Does it? Maybe I think it comes to a little cross. We just maybe needed Lingard to get across or a central striker to get across for an easy tap in. But once again, that just shows the compactness and then giving the opportunity for the fullbacks to get round, high and wide. All right, guys, that is it for today. Thank you very much for watching. I've put a bit of effort and I'm really chuffed at how the video and how importantly, more importantly, how the tactic has been replicated in the game. I would like you to download the tactic. Let me know your thoughts on it. Smash a like on today's video for me. So important as well for my little old channel. That videos like this get spotted. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know what you think, your thoughts, and I will see you at the next one. Cheers, guys. Take care. See you later.